Good morning, everybody. I hope you're all feeling great this morning. We'll be getting started in about 30 seconds or so. I can hear you, Adriana.
Okay.
I do have the music up pretty loud right this minute.
No, in fact, I wasn't hearing the music that loud.
Oh.
That was my question, but leave it like this. Probably. No, it's okay. It's okay. The volume.
I think I can really hear where it's at. I had it really cranked up. I'm just gonna turn it out a little bit at least. All right.
Can you make me moderator, please?
I can. Nope, not with that user though. Let me do that over here. Oh my goodness. I know I need to do a lot of stuff. I'm getting to it. Where is my father? Why is he not in here?
They are still talking with Tom.
They are still talking.
I hope they are talking.
There we go. I goosed him. All right. Today is workbook lesson 79. Let me recognize the problem so it can be solved. And Dad's going to read out of our Circle of Atonement edition. I fix a couple of things here. Good morning, Papa. How are you?
Good morning, Lee. I'm fine. We're going to read all about problems and how to solve them. Lesson 79 is actually, I think, a very good one. And if Neil deGrasse Tyson was into this side of all of the stuff he explains, I think he would get a big kick out of it. It says, and I'll explain why later on. Let me recognize the problem so it can be solved. A problem cannot be solved if you don't know what it is. Even if it is actually solved already, you will still have the problem because you cannot recognize that it has been solved. This is the situation of the world. The problem of separation, which is really the only problem, has already been solved. But the solution is not recognized because the problem is not recognized. Everyone seems to have his own special problems, yet they are all the same and must be recognized as one, if the one solution which solves them all is to be accepted. Who can see that his problem has been solved if he thinks the problem is something else? Even if he is given the answer, he cannot see its relevance. That is the position in which you find yourself now. You have the answer, but you're still uncertain about what the problem is. A long series of problems seems to confront you, and as one is settled, the next one and the next and the next and the next arise. There seems to be no end to them. There is no time in which you feel completely free of problems, and we would call that at peace. The actual text says, there is no time in which you feel completely free of problems and at peace. The temptation to regard problems as many is the temptation to keep the problem of separation unsolved. I've got 15 problems and I don't know which one to solve first. Well, you really only have one problem, so just solve that. Oh, the world seems to present you with a vast number of problems, each requiring a different answer. This perception places you in a position in which your problem-solving skills must be inadequate and failure must be inevitable. This really sucks. No one could solve all the problems that would appear no one could solve all the problems the world appears to hold. They seem to be on so many levels, in such varying forms, and with such varied content that they confront you with an impossible situation. Dismay and depression are inevitable as you regard them. Some spring up unexpectedly, just as you think you have resolved the previous ones. Others remain unsolved under a cloud of denial and rise to haunt you from time to time, and only to be hidden again, but still unsolved. All this complexity is but a desperate attempt not to recognize the problem and not to let it be resolved. If you could recognize that your only problem is separation, no matter what form it takes, you could accept the answer because you would not lose of its relevance. Perceiving the underlying constancy in all the problems that confront you, you would understand that you have the means to solve them all, and you would use the means because you recognize the problem. In our longer practice periods, we will ask what the problem is and what is the answer to it. We will not assume that we already know. We will try to free our minds of all the different kinds of problems that we think we have. We will try to realize that we have only one problem, which we have failed to recognize. We will ask what it is. What is the problem? And wait for the answer. We will be told the answer to what the problem is. Then we will ask for the solution to it, and we will be told. Tom, I did a little bit of your stuff here because that's really hard to understand without adding a few extra words. The way it's written, and just to kind of show this here, it says, we will try to realize that we have only one problem, which we have failed to recognize. We will ask what it is and wait for the answer. We will be told. Then we will ask for the solution to it, and we will be told. The question itself, the first question is, what is the problem? Then they tell you the problem, and then you got a new problem, like what is the answer? Never mind. I'll get back to that. But anyway, we're in paragraph 8 now. Our exercises for today will be successful to the extent to which We do not insist on defining the problem. Perhaps we will not succeed in letting all our preconceived notions go, but that is not necessary. All that is necessary is to entertain some doubt about the reality of our version of what our problems are. We are trying to recognize that we have been given the answer by recognizing the problem, so that the problem and the answer can be brought together and we can be at peace. The shorter practice periods for today will not be set by time, but by need. You will see many problems today, each one calling for an answer. Our efforts will be directed toward recognizing that there is only one problem and only one answer. In this recognition are all problems solved. In this recognition, and I might add only in this recognition, there is peace. Be not deceived by the form of problems today. Whenever any difficulty seems to arise, tell yourself quickly, let me recognize this problem so it can be solved. Then try to suspend all judgment about what the problem is. No judgment. If possible, close your eyes for a moment and ask what it is. You will be heard and you will be answered. The point I was trying to make a little bit earlier was that it's really interesting because Lee happened to send me something from Neil deGrasse Tyson this morning, and he takes everything and makes it amusing and interesting to listen to. Fascinating man and a fascinating mind. And when you think about it, well, when he thinks about it, he was asked, how does the world end, with a bang or a whimper? And the answer for him was to talk about what is at the end of everything. He said that once this big bang happened, the universe just kept on expanding and expanding and expanding. And in the end, it's going to keep on expanding until there's not enough gravity left to hold it together. And what is that except separation of all these parts that it started with, supposedly? And they're going to separate, farther and farther away. That's the end. There's nothing that you can't call it a universe anymore because there's nothing left there. So separation, even at that level, is still the apparent problem. And that's true if we accept the Big Bang idea that it's a bunch of things that are separating from each other. But even at that macro level, which would be super macro, we're not dealing with that. What we're dealing with, getting things together. The solution at that level is the same as the solution of any problem you have on Earth today, is that there is an unknown, untouched essence that pulls everything together, and it's called love. Now, I haven't told this to Neil deGrasse. He didn't ask me. But when he does, I'll be glad to let him know exactly that, it's not even going to end. Other than that, that is our reading for today. I hope I've confused you enough so that you want to really find out what the problem is. The problem is the way I read it, maybe. So that's it. I think it's fun to add some humor to this because it can seem very dry.
Whenever you're ready, you can start adding humor to it. No problem. Anytime you're ready.
I knew it.
Lesson 79. Oh, my goodness.
You won't forget this, will you?
Just
The
playing with you,
problem is
Papa.
separation. Big Bang separates forever.
Yeah,
Okay,
I thought in
but
the end it was going to collapse back on itself and have a big bounce.
could be.
Who knows? Neil knows, I guess. All right, notes to lesson 79. Let me recognize the problem so it can be solved. Lesson 79 is let me recognize the problem so it can be solved. This is out of A Course in Miracles workbook for dummies. Before any problem can be resolved, you must first correctly identify the problem. Without that correct identification, you will mistake the effects of the problem for the cause. Perceiving the effect of a problem to be the cause will result in you attempting to reduce, manage, or mitigate the negative consequences rather than addressing the root cause of the problem at its source. The identification of the problem is critical if you are to correct the problem at its source. Unless you address the root cause of the problem, your attempts to manage the effects of the problem will ultimately fail. You will manage one effect or form of the problem, and a new form of the problem will appear in another area of your life. Yet, if you do not even realize that you have a problem, you will not even attempt to solve the problem. This is the situation that we find ourselves in often. This lesson says the only problem is our belief in separation. If we understood this to be the root cause of all problems in our lives, we would finally be able to focus our attention on addressing the source of the problem. Once correctly identified, the problem can be solved. If you realize that all your problems arose from your belief in separation, you'd quickly realize that the solution to the problem would be to end your belief in separation. But the world is designed to provide proof that the separation is real and make differentiation seem possible. Because of this, there is a tendency for our mind to either fail to recognize the problem of separation as a problem. We like the idea that we're special or separate with our own autonomous existence. Or two, recognize the separation as a problem but feel powerless to change it because that is just the reality of our universe. In either case, we will not attempt to correct the problem at its source, or what we think of as its source. Instead, we'll focus our attention on managing, controlling, and mitigating negative consequences that our belief in separation has upon our world. Everyone seems to have their own unique problems, and multiple problems abound in this world. It only seems that we have multiple problems because we confuse the numerous forms of the same problem to actually be different problems. The form is different, but the cause is the same. If the root cause is the same, all problems are the same. We mistake multiple consequences of the single problem of separation to be unrelated problems with different root causes. We fail to see that all our problems arise from one core misperception. Correct that misperception, and all of our numerous forms of the problem disappear because they all trace their origins back to our belief in separation. For example, our belief in separation means the following: you are no longer part of the oneness of all that is. You cannot be perfect, whole, and complete. You must have needs. there is something outside of you to fear. You need to judge our world. Your happiness is contingent on outside forces. You're hiding, you're justified in holding grievances. You must be limited. You must lack something. You must be a victim. The list goes on and on and on. When you believe you're separate, you develop a warped sense of what real love is. You believe that love would require you to fix, change, control, protect, impress another because you love them. You would mistake the game token that is the body to be the reality of who they are and who you really are. All right, let's take a minute to relax for our meditation. I think long term, I am going to have to read the lesson, Dad, so I can pick up all the nuances of what we're supposed to do when we practice. I think I can get it if... Hey, Adriana, would you mind leading us in a little bit of breath work? And I'll get my little part together.
Okay, but do you want me to choose the bread work? Or as I did
Oh,
yesterday?
you know what you did with the light yesterday was really
Okay.
beautiful.
Okay.
I think maybe if you could do the breath work in a shorter version of the light
Yeah.
part.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. And then, hey, everybody, we're just winging it. So give us some feedback and, give us some guidance if there's something that we do that you like. We're just kind of trying to find a good way to go through the lesson every day and to at least get one in our pocket so that we finished one of them, and that kind of sets our trajectory off for the right direction. So if you got any suggestions, great. Otherwise, we're here every morning at 6:30 trying to do this lesson and get A Course in Miracles working in our lives in a way that's really helpful. Thanks.
Okay. So, good morning, everybody. Let's do a little bit of this meditation, and let's start just being present. Please be comfortable in any position that you are right now. You can close your eyes and start hearing all the noises that you have around you, even if it is my voice, the music, or whatever sounds you have around you. Feel the chair that you're on or the bed that you're on. Feel your body. Feel all the parts of it, lying down or rested in some position. And place your attention in your heart. How is your heart this morning? How does it feel? It feels lighter or heavy, doesn't matter. Just feel it. And then imagine a beautiful bright light that starts to show inside of this heart, and it's pumping all over through your body and your cells, and it starts to glow within every single part of your body. So all this light goes to the center of the earth and connects with Mother Earth and goes back, being cleansed and nurtured by Mother Earth. And by the touch of your feet, it starts to lighten up again all your body, and your body starts to light up everything around you, the room, the world, everything starts to see. You start to see it like light. Everything is a white light. Everything that you can put your attention on will become light as you bring it to your attention. So now you take a deep breath, thinking of the Holy Spirit, and exhaling Kingdom of Heaven. Take another deep breath in. It doesn't matter the time. Holy Spirit, and let go easily, Kingdom of Heaven. And let's do another one. Deep breath. Holy Spirit, Kingdom of Heaven. And with your mind in this wide, wide place, bright, bright place, where everything is just light and love, let's hear the guidance of Lee.
Good morning, everybody. Today's lesson starts one of the tough periods for me as I go through the lessons, because today we start to have to doubt our own certainty. And it's trouble in the long term to put doubt in what you're certain in. It's destabilizing. It makes things feel unresolved and can raise fear in a bunch of ways. But I've got great news. Our brother's here to ease our fear and help us through this. We're not questioning the reality that we all see. We're questioning our interpretation of that reality. We're looking at the relevance of how our interpretations can make us believe things that aren't real. So today, take a deep breath, because our lesson specifically says that we're going to be successful to the extent to which we do not insist on defining the problem we're working with. Perhaps we will not succeed in letting all of our preconceived notions go, but we don't have to do all of them. All that's necessary is to entertain some doubt about the reality of our version of what our problems are. We're trying to recognize that we've been given the answer by recognizing the problem, so that the problem and the answer can be brought together and we can be at peace. Throughout the day, we have shorter practice periods. As things come up and there's a problem and it calls for an answer, our knee-jerk reaction is going to be going in a certain direction. Try and pause for a moment. Take a deep breath. Don't be rushed in everything you do today on Sunday. Be mindful so that you can question a couple of your assumptions. You don't have to question all of them, but if you could question one or two that you catch yourself in today, you'll be doing great. Say to yourself, let me recognize this problem so that it can be solved. Then try and suspend your judgment. Sometimes it's helpful to close your eyes so that you can see it differently. Sometimes you've got to close your ears so you can hear it differently. It's hard to second guess yourself, but be patient. And don't be unhappy if it doesn't succeed either, because today it's about taking a minute to push yourself a little bit farther to see if you can find something new, and figuring out what you don't know, especially when you don't know what you don't know. It's just about the hardest task we can have. So I'll invite you to take another deep breath. We'll seat this learning deep inside of us. Do our best. When we run into some problem today, anything that makes you slightly upset is a great example. Take a deep breath. See if God can show you the answer to this problem in a different way than you've ever seen it before. Hopefully you can tell me tomorrow of your successes. I'll try and remember mine. So, remember that we're all the light, we're all the love, we're trying hard, making good progress, actually. This year's coming along. It's the 20th of March, so we're one day before spring, everybody. The equinox is here. The next couple of days, we should have a little bit more balance, and I don't know, there's supposed to be smoother weather for the next couple of days up here. I'm not sure if that's going to be true for you guys. How's everybody feeling today?
Good morning, Andy.
Morning.
That's a wave. It's good. Up here in the New England area, it's starting to get to be springtime. I know it's warmer to the south, and I could be grateful for this. I saw over close to Greece, they had a snow tornado, and so I've never seen. Today, I'm grateful that I've never seen a snow tornado before.
Wow. Well, where are you? I mean, I'm in New York. It's been beautiful.
I'm north of Boston.
Oh, okay. Okay. I love that area, actually.
I do too.
I think I was, it was so weird. All those years that I had that phobia, the phobia was really, it was that I was afraid to be alone. And so with this lesson, I'm like, oh my God, I was really close to the answer that I was never alone, and and all those years I struggled feeling so alone. And when I, remember when I felt, or when I remember when I separated, it was as if I abandoned myself, because there was it was a coping mechanism. And I now remember pretty much when it happened. And I didn't think I was capable of surviving on my own. Actually, and that came through all my years. But back when, I remember when I think really caused that feeling was when I was praying at oh, I'm telling you, continual, because I didn't think that I could survive, because I thought I would, fall off this snowmobile and die. And so I didn't think that I could hold on. I thought I would get tired, and it felt exhausting. And I was praying that God would do something to help me. I guess help me, just help me. And I then lost a faith in God as well, because it was like, nope, he's not helping me. So I was really what they call dissociated, and did that for many, many years, and just realized from being on Clubhouse, when I got the nerve to ask about what is it, to thankfully I was in a room where they knew exactly what it was and could, or whatever, maybe it was just the way the woman said it to me, and said, this happens often when we're young and we don't realize it happened, and then we go through life feeling separated from ourselves. And oh wow, it was so true for me, and the answer was always next to me. And then when I actually realized that I did take care of myself, that that I really did take care of myself when I needed to take care of myself in different instances. And I all of a sudden really came back. I came back and trusted myself. And then I felt really connected. And all that time, it was fear. And fear underlines every emotion. This is what I've learned in Chinese medicine, that fear underlies every emotion. And so, fear of what? And when you think about it, it's exactly what it is. It's fear of being alone and disconnected. And wow, you know, really, that's all I could say is that when I realized that I was reconnected, well, I was always connected. When I realized I was always connected, but that magical moment happened when when I realized that and I felt reconnected, is when I actually lost fear. And I will never go back there. I will never go back there. I don't believe so. I know too much. And
Yeah,
that's
you
how,
remember.
yeah,
Remember.
remember. Yep. Yep. Because that's what we do. We remember. Everything is a memory. Everything I'm saying has been.
No, but the word is funny because the word has like this another kind of meaning, like remember. You get
Oh,
to
yeah.
reattach to the
It
oneness.
literally is like
Yes.
attaching a member back to your body, your
Yeah.
arm, your finger, your
Exactly. It's so literal and it's so simple. A really, really simple. Like, so basically, yeah. I just, yeah. It's actually was so simple. Look at how that what I thought was the problem. And I can say any problem that I think I might have, like a sore hip or something, is is really me thinking that I have a sore hip. And then if I like what just taking it to the level of Chinese medicine, there's an emotion attached to that, you know, and that emotion is underlying that emotion. The truth is fear, and and that's pretty much how I'm looking at it from this lesson.
Thank you. Tom, go ahead.
Well, this lesson, although it wasn't that clear in the reading of the lesson, but in the lesson it states that the problem of all our problem is the separation. So whenever it's said in there, the problem, you don't realize the problem. well, it said that your only problem is your belief in separation. There's a axiom, there's four axioms, but the fourth axiom says that in time and space, the only relationship that is of real consequence is your relationship with God, your source, your the creator. And if you understand that there is no separation in that relationship, obviously, if you have a relationship with the God of fear, uh, you're going to be in trouble. But if you realize and you have created a God or see God as a God of unconditional love, then you'll never uh, feel separation. The thing with unconditional love is that it constantly flows, and that the only thing that we can do is deny that flow. We can resist it or say that it doesn't come my way, but it's my refusal to accept that. So um, the problem is always our belief in separation. And if we have the relationship with our uh, higher self, God, whatever you want to call it, uh, and realize that there's no separation, it's just blocks that we've chosen to put in front of that and say that we're separate that from God, or that we're rejecting that flow. That's our problem. So any problem in this world is really comes back down to that belief in separation, because that belief changes you from being part of the one self, perfect, whole, and complete, to something not perfect, not whole, and very incomplete. And that's the source of all the fear. So this lesson, it wasn't very clear because of the lesson. But if you look at the lesson and you start following the things, you'd see that they clearly state all our problem is our belief in separation. When you see a problem in this world, it's all the root cause. If you trace it all back, will be that you believe that you're not part of the one self, perfect, whole, and complete, and that you've made the time and space, which is our game board for us to reawaken to the truth of what we really are. You've made that real by your belief that you're separate and that therefore there's something wrong with you. Thank you.
It's like if everything that you think you're not gets introduced into your duality for you to remember that everything is you. I was thinking about Andy's intervention because yes, I did have a phobia in the past, and it was about darkness in my room, and it all come to the idea of being alone and not with God. Now that I could really see things clearly now, and another kind of big conflict that I had consistently in my life is about communication, because there's some moments that I feel like I'm not being heard, and that has to do with my childhood. I guess I was really this outspoken girl, and I always tried to like rule the classrooms. I was like that, and I always get like this kind of feedback that no, you need to. And in fact, this morning I had a feedback from Tom that I was really like coding in some part of his story. So I was thinking, oh, that's really a big part of my life, the communication problem, if you want to see it like a problem. But that comes from the fear of not being heard by God or not hearing God in some form. So everything comes to one single problem. But if you don't do like the work within yourself to try to see those kind of conflicts as like a learning lesson to remember this, you will not leave it alone. I mean, you will still have this kind of conflict with different actors in your screen. I remember that. This is funny. I remember one time my ex-husband said to me, really mad, you don't see any problem in life. You seem like if there was no problems in life, you don't have problems in your life. Because I was telling him that he was too negative around things, and I didn't like that, and I wanted him to be like more trustful that everything will be okay. And he was mad at me and saying that to me. You don't have any problems, and said to him, well, my only problem is like my communication with you, because if I look outside and the tree outside will give me, we had an avocado. We have an avocado tree in this house, so I pointed at the tree and I said, as long as that tree will give me avocados, I don't have any problem. And he got super mad, and well, the conflict kept going for
It is
reasons,
kind of
but
funny, the stuff that can make our partners mad. It's like once in a while. It's pretty funny.
but it was a communication problem. But now I see that my communication problem, in the metaphysical way of seeing it, has been always that that my mind thinks that I'm not being heard by God, or that cannot hear God in some form. So I'm really finding this lesson very helpful, because as everything is one and God is within and among everything, I definitely have been hearing God and being heard by God all the time. It's just that my mind didn't recognize it. It's like the other statement that came from, I guess it was Bob the other day, that We are perfect already. We just need to make progress. And that phrase, I kept that in my mind because, yeah, progress towards what? Progress towards remembering who you are. It's not like this incremental thing that you need to achieve in order for you to be perfect. It's just that the progress is that if you keep failing and failing and failing, you will have the learning lesson all over again. Just to remember, it's just progress is going back to the idea practicing the idea that you are already perfect, holy, and complete. So progress is not getting stuck in the failure and trying again until you remember and until you get it right in some form. So I have to work with my communications skills just to remember and make progress about me feeling heard by God, because He has always been there. I am the one that's not seeing it like that.
Sometimes it's like that, but I agree it's good to laugh at ourselves. This is the thing. And taking ourselves too seriously, that makes it really hard to see a lot of things that we're looking to try and see today. These things that trip us up, that we don't know what we don't know. It's there's in the matrix of trying to understand something, the stuff that we know is easy. The stuff that we know we don't know is a little bit easier. And then there's, I guess, the inverse of that, the stuff that we don't know what we don't know. That's like the hardest. There's what's the other quadrant supposed to be? Anyway, regardless, it's the stuff where we have to figure out what we don't know that's the hardest. And that's what I got out of today. So I guess my little piece of that share is, yesterday something happened to me that doesn't usually happen. I went to work on a project, and I gathered up all my tools, and I drove my car to a place where I could get underneath my car and get to the stuff that I needed to get to. And I had a bolt on my car that I needed to loosen in order to put this hitch on. And I got my socket wrenches out, and I used my socket wrenches, and I broke a socket wrench. I twisted it so hard that the metal broke. So I went down to the Ace Hardware, and I got another piece, and I went back underneath the car, and I lubricated up the joint, and I started to get that, trying to loosen that bolt again. And the next time, the socket wrench itself got stripped. Not the bolt. I didn't strip the bolt, the screw thing that was in the car. I broke the tool again. And it's rare that I break my tools. It's rare that I have something that breaks my tools like this. But I did something I hardly ever do. I put the job to the side because it didn't have to be done. I decided to solve the problem in a whole different way. I'm going to have to move in a couple of weeks, and I was going to be able to pull a trailer around behind the car, and I thought that might be helpful. And it's going to cost a little bit more, but I'm going to rent a truck. Renting a truck does the same thing, and it's plenty more space to make sure you get it all in one drive, rather than have to do more than one trip. So I think it's going to make life easier in the long run. But I paused and I reassessed the way that I do stuff almost my whole entire life. And I'll get back to fixing the car eventually, but it doesn't have to be done for this move. And in reassessing, it felt like a good choice. Anyway, so that's my story for today.
Well, Lee, I kind of thought you had a Clark Kent thing going on. So that you broke a socket wrench, that's pretty powerful there. I don't know how you did that one.
Janine, it's so
It is
funny that
not
you told.
normal.
It's so funny that you told him that he's Clark Kent. I have been telling him that. It's so
Yeah, I'm
funny.
telling you, that was the first thing I thought when I saw him.
You see, I'm not the only one that says that.
Thank you, Janine. Yes, two help. That helps. You guys are awesome.
So this is really, for me, a fascinating lesson. I started with Neil deGrasse Tyson because I love the way he makes everything humorous that seems so complicated to the rest of us. But this lesson is super powerful, and I'm going to add some language pieces to it to kind of clothe it that might help anybody who's trying to look at this, because it's so fundamental and basic to really understanding what this book and the course is about. If you live in a house and next door to you is a separate house, you are separated. The two houses are separate. If you happen to have a duplex, which is two units, two dwelling units that are connected, they're not separated physically. They're in one building. But if you go higher up, let's just say 20 feet up, you can see that there are two houses, and then there are more houses the higher up you go. As you look, as your point of view changes, and that's what this book is all about. It's not introducing a new world, it's getting you to have a bigger point of view of what's going on. The higher up you go, you see that, well, okay, the houses may be separate from each other, but they're all in one community. You go a little bit higher and you see, oh, well, all these communities, they all think they're separate and special. No, they're all in one town. Go up a little bit higher and you realize that all the towns are in one county, and higher, one state, and one country, and one continent, and one planet, and one solar system, and one galaxy. Then comes the new word of all the young people today, metaverse. What's a metaverse? You look that up and it says, well, if you'll pay me X number of dollars, I'll explain it all to you, which means that he's going to give you a different point of view. When your point of view changes and you see the problem, that there isn't any separation, then all the apparent separations that you see at various levels, they all melt away. There was a famous alcoholic that Lee and I both met one time. He was the funniest guy you've ever heard if you happen to be an alcoholic. And although we weren't, we were able to see this guy and hear some of his tapes.
This
And
was
his
Carrie
best
Fisher's
phrase,
sponsor,
Lee,
right?
I think you'll
This was
agree to
Princess
this.
Leia's
But
sponsor, this guy. Okay? His name is Clancy, and he had stories
his,
from like Star Wars level quality stories in Alcoholics Anonymous, and
yep.
it was pretty amazing. He, to be a sponsor, kind of a sponsor to the stars. He
Gee,
had level of sponsorship
I wonder how you knew who I was talking about. Go
because
ahead, but you know where I'm going, right?
he's the only one.
You know
Well,
where I'm going.
I'm not sure I do.
Okay,
He
his
had actually
favorite,
so many different stories that it's hard to tell. He could be
his
talking about
stories,
where was you Tuesday morning?
right,
That was a
right.
really good one.
That's a good one. But actually, his best story that he repeated more often and was funny every time we ever heard it, he would try and say very seriously to someone, I'm not an alcoholic. You don't understand. My case
Oh yeah,
is
my
different.
case is different. Oh, my
Okay,
case
so
is different.
that
The
means
swan
that the,
song of every brand new drunk walking into a meeting.
and
But
what
you
that
don't
innate,
understand. My case is
that's right. You don't understand. My case is different. As soon as you do that, you differentiate yourself. What do? You are separating from the group. And as soon as that attitude takes over, you're not going to get any help from Course in Miracles or Alcoholics Anonymous or any other group that wants to help you understand your problem. And as the lesson this morning says, unless you understand the problem, separation, you won't understand and you can't find a solution. That's how powerful this particular lesson is. And it's at the root cause of every problem, because you don't understand the problem. The problem is always separation. Now, when we first hear that, we want to say, you don't understand. That's not that's not the solution. Let me tell you what my problem is different from all the others. Every time you think one thing is different from another, you're separating it. It doesn't matter what level you're at. The only problem is separation because in the end, the solution is always coming back together. Neil
I don't know,
deGrasse Tyson.
Dad. That doesn't make any sense.
I know.
It doesn't make
Thank
any
you.
sense because we have to differentiate stuff just to understand, you know, right from
Yes,
left.
you
But
must understand the problem. The problem is separation. It's not that you are separating right then and there.
what
The
I'm trying to say
problem.
is that if you're saying that what you're saying is confusing to me because if you're saying that every single problem has exactly the same answer, like love, that's saying one thing. But if you're saying every single problem that we've got, if you move back far enough, you can't differentiate the problem, so there's no problem, then that's a problem.
I understand, and
Okay.
you're working with words, and you're giving different meanings to the same words. Let's take for example the Big Bang. The Big Bang, everybody thinks was how we were created. It's wonderful. This is terrific. This is how we all came to be. This is how everything began. We got photons and neutrons and all everything from every level. Everything's got separated, and now we can have some fun out here. Well, if you ask Neil deGrasse too much Tyson how he wants to die, he said, "Oh, it's everybody knows how I want to die." And the guy interviewing him, he says, "Well, I don't know," or something like that. He wants to go into a black hole when he finds himself starting to disintegrate, and then the gravity will collapse on him, and he goes on and on and on. And in the end, he says that he wants to be spaghettified like the wolf man. And this goes on and on. But no matter how you look at it, it's separation. What is death? It's separating the mind from the body. You know, it doesn't matter what it is. I challenged this statement also. And the more I challenged it, the more I began to realize it's only when we think that there's a differentiation between this and that. Because if you get up high enough at God's point of view, you see that it's all one. And he's trying to put it back together. And he's got the solution love. You
Yeah,
want to say love is like,
he isn't even trying because everything has been done already. He's
that's
just
right.
there. He's just there, being the love, being there, and we are the ones that are remembering because we are the ones experiencing this kind of duality
Okay,
and
and,
this
and,
kind of
and let's
motion.
add one more thing to that. Let's say you're in a playground, there's two kids who are squabbling with each other. They're about to fight. One throws the first punch. What do? You go over there, you separate them. You solve the problem that one of them thought that by being brutal, they would solve the problem of proving who's superior. But the bigger problem was they were both
But
getting
let me
hurt.
tell you, in that specific situation, you split them apart in order for you to communicate with them and make them
Yeah,
see the conflict from different perspectives in order to
right,
release the emotion of that kind of idea of being violent about it. It's
right.
funny
And
because
Whenever
it
Lee
comes to communication again.
and Lee's
whenever you're
question
using
is
the word
answered.
separation, but whenever you're using the word separation, I think it's important to realize that uh, when you start believing separation, what does that mean? That engenders fear. When we believe that we're separate, we have now moved into fear, and we now are going to think and try and solve all future problems out of once you have fear, you have a thought system being birthed out of fear. And now continue to dig in the wrong field which is the field of fear, and we try to mitigate fear, whereas we have to go back and find the true source of the problem, which the source of fear arose out of our belief in separation. Course says the separation was not a problem. We're playing in the game of separation. It was whenever we forgot to laugh that we bought into the belief that we had become the not the boy pretending that he was a dog, but we had become the dog. So whenever we believe in separation, we believe that we have something to fear, and that bursts a fear-based thought system. When now we're in the field of fear, the correct, as Lee mentioned, the correct uh, field to find the source of or resolve the problem is love, or this idea of oneness. We want to keep on because we don't realize the problem is fear, our belief in separation. We keep in digging in the field of fear, and we keep on going deeper and deeper, and we find all kinds of things to try and mitigate fear. But as long as we are on, just say, planet fear, where whatever we come and remain on that planet, we're going to be in fear. So there, what we have to do is we have to realize that the problem is the fear-based thought system that spawned out of our belief in separation, and go before that, before the source of the problem, okay? And the resolution is before we believed in separation, before we made fear real. So we have to go back to the idea that we've got to remember that this is has no ability to impact our inner peace, and it has no ability to change the truth that we are still part of that one self. So uh, it's we you we want to dig in the we want to solve the problem from the belief that we're separate, and that is the problem. We're consciously incompetent. We don't know that the problem is our belief in separation, which spawns a fear based thought system. Therefore, we have to first find the problem. And this lesson says the problem is all problems is our belief in separation. That's the beginning of the downfall. That's whenever we forgot to laugh and made the belief in separation appear real to us. Solve that problem, you solve everything else. Correct it at its source, and you don't have to mess around with the auxiliary problems that arise out of our belief in separation. That's why it kind of says, in here, you no longer are part of the oneness of all that is. You cannot be perfect, whole, and complete. You must have needs. You must have something outside of you to fear. You need to judge. What we find now is we come up with this idea: my happiness is contingent on outside forces. These are all descents into fear. But we're sitting there saying, well, it's something outside of me. Okay, so now we try and correct it at the that level, whereas the true source of the problem was much further upstream. We have to go upstream and break the dam that we built up stream with our belief in separation. Once you find the source of the problem, all that you have to do is correct it at its source, and all the problems that were downstream self-correct. Okay, so it's saying solve your belief that you're separate. That fourth axiom, the only relationship of consequences is my real in time and space is my relationship with God, my source. If you can believe, make that leap of faith and have certainty in the idea that God is only love, and that's our only problem, is our not the flow, but our refusal to accept that, all your problems are solved, because you no longer will believe or uh, in this world of time and space, you'll remember to laugh and
You,
not take it real or
you know
make it
what?
serious.
You know what?
Thank you.
Everything that you just said make me realize that as everything is related to God, so yeah, and so all the problems that we have in duality are just this idea of separation. But how do you make a practical thing out of this to
Yeah,
to feel remembered? And I and I just really had
me
my
too.
answer in my problem. I mean, the answer was my problem in communication. In the level of the form, you can feel, of course, more at one when you find a couple to love, or when you have kids and you feel the kids those kids are yours, so you start to have this sense of like being one. But in fact, the solution to the separation idea is just communication, because everything is related to your relationship to God. So everything can be solved through communication, even in the level of the form or in the level of the spirit. Because at the level of the spirit, if you have, I don't know, any conflict in your life, of course it's because you feel alone. Of course it's because you feel in some form like um, not being taken into consideration. So what does that mean? That you need to communicate in some form with a higher source for you to be able to feel the presence and to understand that you are fully holy and complete. So if everything is related to your relationship to God and all your problems are a separation idea, the communication is the key to make you feel at one again. Communication with whom? With God. Because if everything is related to God, your relationship with God can be just solved with communication. What is communication with God? Whatever you want to do it in the level of the form. You can pray, you can meditate, you can get in touch with nature, because God is within you and among everything you see. So if everything is separated because you are insisting and persisting in your mind that everything is apart from you, you cannot have, like, I don't know, a person and eat it and feel it like inside of you. That's a silly idea. How do you feel another people part of yourself? Communicating with them, learning from them, hearing them, letting them be whatever they want to be without judgment. That's how you feel at one again. That's how you became the true observer and witness of the love of God in
Mm-hmm.
everything you see, because you stop to try to put your knowledge as the source of the understanding of your problems, and you
Yeah.
start to realize that everything that is happening around you is the work of God, and you start to communicate from a different perspective in
Mm-hmm.
all of your levels, because then you realize that, yeah, you are here having this experience of separation, but you know in your mind and in your heart that everything is you, that everything is God. So you solve your problem, understanding that, and communicate it again with God through everything that you have experienced, through a prayer, through meditation, even in conflict. I remember once that I had a discussion with my ex-husband. I was really mad. I was super really mad at him. I started to feel my hand like really. I have never raised my hand into another person in my life. I mean, but the discussion get me so angry that I felt my heart burning, and my heart, no, my hand burning. And for some small amount of time, my anger went into a peak, and I was about to really give him a slap in the face, because he was really being mean to me. And we were like really close to each other, and I was saying, you don't get to disrespect me like that. And I was about to raise my hand, but I yelled inside of me something, and this was before the Course in Miracles. Something inside of me gave me this, and it was my voice again. I mean, it was like if I have two people inside of me in some form. And I raised my voice and I said, no more. I'm not gonna hit you. I was yelling at him, but I wasn't yelling at him. I was yelling to myself. And as I was yelling at him, I was talking to myself. I said, "No, I'm not gonna hit you, and you're trying to make me so mad that I'm not gonna raise my hand. I never have done that, and I'm not going to do it for the first time. So I'm gonna stop fighting you, and I'm gonna go. You need to leave because I don't wanna raise my hand onto anybody. And this is the end of the discussion. I'm not gonna hit you. What do you want me to do to hit you? I'm not gonna hit you." And that was really like an example of really God is in everything, because in some form I was I wasn't even in the acknowledgement of the Course in Miracles thing of oneness of your, but in that specific situation in my conflict with him, it was a communication problem, and my ego was so on the loose that it was trying to make me do something that I really don't believe. I mean, I never had thought that violence is the answer, and God really came through me, and I know now that it was that part of me that it's God that said, "You are talking to yourself. You are not fighting him. You are fighting to yourself. You need to control that kind of anger." So my statement towards him, and he really stood like, "What are you talking about?" Because it really turned the conversation or the discussion into another kind of level, and he really just stopped arguing with me, and well, whatever. It was, this is a way of realizing within me that my problem in communication is the same solution for the separation. I, it's just that I was trying to solve it in the level of the form. And now I understand that every time that I got angry in that level is because I'm having problems with communication, and the communication is not among others, it's among within myself, with my relationship with God, that I can be really fully complete, fully supported without any other kind of situation around me in the level of the form. So I wanted to share that because Tom's idea really hit the nail with this, that everything is related to your relationship with God. So all the problem comes from a separation idea from that. And then the communication is the solution for all the problems of separation. Communication with God.
That's a
Well,
great
let me just
story.
say one more thing on that, and then I'm going to have to go anyways. But in regards to this whole thing, everybody is on their own perfect path, and we have to realize that and allow everybody to make their own way, because everybody's guaranteed to wake up. You, I, we can uh, work on our own perfect path. And one way that you can do it is by taking baby steps. If you're a gardener and there's a weed in the garden, you can, you know, rip up the top leaves on the surface and it'll reappear. It might weaken the plant, but the root cause is still down there and it'll keep on sending up new shoots. Okay. Uh, we can continue to do that indefinitely and it'll continue to send up more problems elsewhere, side shoots or whatever. We have to realize that we have to go down to the root and dig out the root. And when we do that, all the side growth disappears. It fades away. Uh, if we want to baby step our way to reawakening, that's fine. There's no problem. You can take as long as you want. You can keep on chopping the weed off at the top and keep on replaying it and having different problems or different people appear in your life. Or you can decide, I no longer want to take baby steps. I want to go to the root of the problem, which is my belief that I'm in this uh, belief in separation, that I'm not one with God. And if you can correct that problem, that belief in separation, that's the root, and everything else will disappear. If you want to work on the top, that's fine, but you don't have to. So what this lesson is saying is, if you want to screw around with all these problems that you think you have at the surface level, instead of dig down in the root, you can do that. But you're wasting your energy and time, because eventually you'll find, as you dig down lower and lower, that you got to get to the root of the problem. Pull the plant, get to the root, solve the problem. And this lesson is telling you in black and white, it says there is no problem except your belief in separation, your belief that you're a sinner, your belief that you've somehow offended God, and therefore you have transformed a God of unconditional love into a God of judgment, and that God finds you wanting. Correct that belief, and all the problems, not the fear-based problems of the mass collective conscious, but all your problems, and your belief in separation uh, solves your problem, and you'll see this world, and you'll remember to laugh. So thank you.
Thank you, Tom. I want to add something here, and I think that George, who is swimming at the bottom of the group here, will probably join me. There you are. Thank you, George. Um, uh, this whole thing that we're talking about, that Tom says and that Adriana says, is all about level confusion, because we think we're separated in a bunch of situations, but in other areas we think we're connected too tightly. And the real problem is remembering that we are going up a continuous path. So sometimes we have to separate so that we can reunite in a better place, or unite in a better place or a better situation. People who do the same thing every day of their life and then retire, and they're lost because, oh my God, things are changing here. I don't know how to do this. They're at a new level, and they have to learn how it works in that level. The real goal is to be able to work at any level, and you learn that through experience. Older people have been at more levels than younger people. In general, it's just that way.
But
Someone
how
who's
is that?
young,
How is
who
that not the level of confusion itself? What you're saying is right now for me the level of confusion itself.
what
What you're
specifically?
stating, like that, like the people that are older than others are now in more levels, and that for me is the whole level of confusion, because younger people, older people, any people is you.
Okay, what I'm saying is I have to be able to, if I'm good at it, I can speak to Vera at one level and speak to you at a different level, and we're all communicating well. That is an advantage in life. And the whole thing here
And
is
the
not
way
just
you get to communicate with people in different kind of supposedly level is because you see them as you, because you
yes.
recognize them as you.
That's exactly what an actor
Ah, okay.
does. And an actor is really good when he can play himself out at a specific level and stay there during that particular play. And then as soon as the play's over, he can be himself again. But there's a bigger issue here that I shouldn't say bigger, but here's what I think is the most important aspect here, because I was trying to get to it before, but we got into different topics. It's how we feel. Because when you solve a problem, it's one thing. But I said yesterday that peace of mind and peace of God are the most important things to me. When you resolve something, you resolve it. And it usually takes more than one pass. at something to get the real resolution that you want. The feeling of peace comes when you resolve it. That's the way the English word, that's what
But
it means.
the lesson specifically says that with this problem of separation,
Exactly. And the
that's it.
next
This
to
is
the
the
last,
only real way to solve it. It's the second sentence and almost the last sentence as well. Yeah.
yeah, and it actually in paragraph 9, the shorter practice periods for today will not be set by time, but by need. You will see many problems today, each one calling for an answer. Our efforts will be directed toward recognizing that there is only one problem and one answer. In this recognition, this is the sentence, are all problems resolved. I'm saying it resolved with a Z sound as different from resolved. The word solving is a particular problem, but when you solve them all by recognizing we're all one, you resolve it and you have peace. And that's what it says. All problems are resolved. So it's a matter of knowing where you are. For example, Ukraine and Russia right now. Okay, Russia is brutalizing the Ukrainians. They want to be sovereign. They want to be their own country. They want to be separate. But within that separation, they together are banding together to protect themselves. That's what they're supposed to do, because brutality is always the wrong answer. As you saw before in that story you told, Adriana, brutality is keeping separation, beating the hell out of people. If people are dying, that's not survival, it's death. It's not what we want. And when people can work together and allow each one to be each of themselves without hurting you, then we have peace on earth. And that's how it all comes together. But being able to talk to people at different levels is not always easy. Desmond Tutu, it's one of my
But
favorite quotes. You've heard it before.
that's the entire issue again, because communication should be the easiest part of it, because then you will be able to really be in touch with God. If you can't communicate and you think that communication has to be in different levels and hard, then you will not find any bridge between the opposites, or you will find it in time, or it will you I mean, it's just that communication shouldn't be something hard or out of some skill that you need to really like work on, because communication is the only way for you truly embrace it all as part of the oneness idea. So yes, in the level of the form, it seems that it's difficult, but in fact, the communication is the only path to peace, to love, to all the qualities of God. Because there's no other way. You cannot force, for example, in this case of Ukraine and Russia, you cannot force an entire group of people to think like you. You cannot force them. You can kill them, you
Right,
can put them down, whatever, but you just can't force it. You need to
right.
communicate the reasons and try to really build a dialogue in order for express why you think it is right and get into terms with the other part. That's how divorces works, that's how relationships works. All the relationships, in order to become holy, needs to have communication, and it doesn't have to be hard at all or difficult at all. We need to learn different languages in order to communicate among every kind of human being. Yeah, that's right.
Yes,
But there's always, I mean, the communication has and will be, and it has been always being, and it is the only path, and you don't need to be perfect on it. You just need to make progress, as you yourself said. It's not hard, it's just that you just need to make progress. If you didn't do it right at the first time, you then try another kind of communication, and then you try another kind of communication. More loving one. Every time a more loving communication will always take you to that kind of progress. And the progress is not putting some things or into your mind or adding some things to you. It's just remembering who you are, that if you are the peace, if you are the love, then anything that comes out of your words or anything that comes out of your action will reflect that same idea, that you are fully, wholly, complete, and the love of God itself. So communication shouldn't be hard, because God is not hard. That's probably what I wanted to state with your comments, because now I'm seeing that our separation gets harder and harder every time that we consider that communicating with each other is difficult. And it's not, because it's difficult when you think that you are separated from the other person. But when you think of the other person as yourself, even if they are whatever they are, if it is yourself, you shouldn't have any problems to communicate. You will love them still.
Okay, and I accept everything you said. I'd like to add something, and that is, today's lesson is let me recognize the problem so it can be solved. Tomorrow is let me recognize my problems have been solved. So the idea for today is let me recognize my problems have been solved. Lee's going to read it again in just a few minutes. I'm sorry, that was yesterday's. I'm, oh gosh. All
Sorry,
right.
Papa, I didn't mean to
Tomorrow's,
mess
yeah,
with you.
I'm looking at the screen and I
Just
keep seeing
today, we're
something.
trying to recognize it. Tomorrow,
Just
then we can recognize
recognize
that
the
God has already solved it.
problem, right? Some of the
One
solutions
day at a time.
are to separate, but only until we can identify both sides and then find a way to come together, like the two children fighting with each other in the play yard. So sometimes that's what we have to do, but that's not what we're talking about today. Today, in fact, well, we are, because it says, let me recognize. He did it to me
Yeah.
again. Let's
No, no,
see.
no.
No,
Yes, he changed it again. Let me
let
recognize the
me,
problem so it can be solved.
right, so it can be solved. We have to separate. Once we do that, we said, this is a man, this is a woman. They're separate. They are different.
They are
That's
not. Exactly.
recognizing the problem. That's not the solution yet. The solution is, what do you do about the fact this is a man and this is a woman? Well, you talk differently, maybe, and so on and so on and so on. That's how you solve the problems. But we have to know that the separation, the fact that we're fighting with each other, is the problem. We have to understand that that came because we wanted to separate. We got so mad at this person, you wanted to, you wanted to hit him, but you didn't. You used a solution that worked. That's great, but you had to recognize the problem first. That's all we're doing today. And I think that this has been a lot of talk. And if you came in at some point, it might have been confusing at first, but hang around. George, I know you got something to say. I think you have something to say.
Hi, Bob.
There he goes.
Hi, everybody. Certainly a profound lesson today, right? Um, and I guess it is like, I think you hit it, Bob, when you said it's about how you feel. The problem is always reflected in how we feel, right? So let's not define the problem as what's going on in the physical world. Let's define the problem as what's going on internally within ourselves. So the problem we make is that we see things and we react with fear, and we believe in the separation, and we believe things are truly in danger. We believe we're going to lose something, something terrible is going to happen, something I did will never be able to be reversed, on and on psychologically. And we have to remember, or we don't, that the Course is always speaking about our psychological state of mind. So we're always going to have better critical thinking skills and level skills in the physical world when we're dealing from a place of lack of fear and knowing everybody in the situation is fine because everybody is truly a spirit and this world can't touch them. And another wonderful nugget in the Purple Book is the root. It says the root of all evil is the authority problem. And once we think we have to solve the problem, we're in the realm of the authority problem instead of asking God how to solve the problem and following God's will instead of our own. So hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah, super helpful. You really summarize everything that Bob said and I said. Oh,
I
hi,
had
Janine.
something. Hi there. Good morning, everybody. Um, I guess for me, on the underlying word that kind of talks about the feeling you're talking about that Bob mentioned, or I missed. It may have been in Tom's writing, and that is surrender. Is the feeling of that you get when you surrender to God's will. It's a visceral relief when you let go of your own understanding of something, of thinking, because sometimes that's why the problem can't be solved between two people, that the resolution through communicating, because you're both communicating through your own understanding with the lens of ego, of thinking your solution is right and they're thinking their solution is right, even though you both may have the best of intentions and it's still not working and you're wondering, why isn't this working? And if when you go back to your own corner and you just recognize, I can't do this, I'm just going to have to, surrender. And when you have that feeling of surrender, it's like, I don't have to fix this by myself. Um, there's the Holy Spirit is going to intervene, and there's going to be a best solution for all. And I've definitely done that in my own life, and things just work themselves out in a miraculous way that didn't involve me, using my own understanding and worrying about it. We're not worrying, but just trying to make it right myself. But that's the word for me, is just surrender to God's will. Thank you.
That was perfect. Bob, I just wanted to go back to something else too that you had said. But yes, our biggest fear is surrendering to God's will and thinking we have to do everything ourselves, which is the authority problem that I had mentioned there. So that was perfect follow on. But I think what Bob is talking about when he's talking about communicating at different levels, uh, in I think it's in the teacher's manual where it says it never helps to engender fear um, when you're talking to someone else. Um, so we do tend to become artists in a way of how we talk to others, because not everybody is ready to hear the absolute truth. We don't walk up to somebody who's bleeding and say, "You're not a body." Uh, right? So there is a certain art form in the way we communicate, as you were saying, which is so important. Communications is key, but communicating without fear is also key.
Yeah, what I say about communication is that communication is with God, because of course you don't get to say that to a person that it's bleeding, but you do get to say, well, this person that it's bleeding is in some form a part of me, a part of myself. So instead of saying something to that person, you connect with God, to the Holy Spirit, and ask the view. So the real communication that you need to have is with God, in order for you to really experience everything in this life, in this duality, as really like the oneness concept that can bring some type of healing into the world. I mean, you surrender your fears to God. Surrendering your fears to God is in some form communicating with God, and then you will feel the inspiration, or you will know what to do with those situations that arises in your level of the form. Everything is you. So any time of problem, it's a reflection of your separation idea. So you need to connect first always with God as the holy instance, as the view, as always the connection with God, in order for you to approach any situation or conflict with a higher perspective, and the words and the language and whatever you need to will be not only your ego mind talking, it will be Holy Spirit's working through you. That's the communication that I think it is related uh, to this lesson of today, that if you recognize that you have the problem within you, that you will always, as we are talking to each other right now, we have that problem within us, the separation idea. So as we are living this like that, we only need to communicate with God in order to have some kind of solution on it. Let me recognize the problem so it can be solved for me is, of course, the big lesson of today, but I cannot let the day go by without, it's just that I felt ever since I wrote the title of this lesson, my mind went really forward, because I won't dwell no longer in the problems, because the Course in Miracles has been teaching me such a great and perfect tool. It has been teaching me this perfect tool of really not wasting energy only in the problem, because the problem will always be there. The separation idea will always be with you until the end of your perception in this world. Meanwhile, you are in this body, you will have that idea that you're separated because you think you're a body. That's why you're here. So if the lesson 79 will let me all day dwell into, I need to recognize the problem so it can be solved, yes, I will do that. But I want to spend the day as well with the kind of solution idea that will help me to move through my day, through my 24 hours of session with God in a more peaceful way. So I don't want to dwell only in the separation idea or conflicts that will always end up being that. I want to have another kind of hint that will get me through the day with a different perspective of it. Well, not different perspective, but with some kind of solution. I want to live days in peace, and I know that I will have conflict in my life. But I know that they all come from this. So I just wanted to reinforce that as we go through our days, it is Sunday. It shouldn't be so problematic day, because you supposedly could be resting, but if you encounter any kind of conflict, the separation idea is there, so you only need to reach God. Reach God in some form. Go to church, meditate, go and walk in nature. You don't have to go work right now, supposedly. So get in touch with God. That's all there is.
I absolutely agree with you. Thank you so much. You guys, I appreciate you hanging out with us. We've been here for about an hour or so. We start reading lessons at about 6:30. And I'd love to hear from anybody down the audience. Anybody else has anything to share? This lesson 79 is really getting into the groove of our course as we go through this year. And we've had this room here for, well, we're coming up on a year, I guess, in another couple of months. It's amazing how time flies. I would love to, I'm going to invite a couple of people up from the bottom. Just as I was browsing through everybody's different kind of profiles, there's some people I know, there's some people I don't know that I've never really heard from. So I thought I'd invite a couple up. Monica, hi, welcome. Your profile's amazing. Stella, thank you for all the stuff that you've done in the past. And I just wanted to hear your voice to say hi. But good morning, everybody. Happy Sunday morning.
Good
And
morning, everyone. Good morning.
hey, Stella. I
Good
know I
morning,
realized
my
I'd
friend.
invited up and then didn't, left it hanging. Go ahead.
It's been such a pleasure to listen to everyone this morning. Mm, this is a beautiful, beautiful lesson. From what I understand, the Course in Miracles suggests that you don't do more than one lesson at a time. I've been studying the Course for about a year now and have made it to like 179, which is a beautiful, beautiful lesson. I try to do my practice periods. I try to do what the course suggests, you know, wake up in the morning, spend some time with God, and I choose to do that in silence. And when I'm done, I come, I've been coming here like for the past couple of days, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just been beautiful. It's been absolutely beautiful. I've been just basically trying to feel, fearlessly feel, because I realized like I block a lot of feelings. Um, and I guess maybe because I'm afraid of them, and because I think I'm separate. I think I'm doing it by myself. I had an
Oh, I know
opportunity,
that feeling.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had an opportunity yesterday. I've been basically just kind of just being to myself, you know. And I'm wondering, I don't know, have I separated myself? I don't think I really separated myself from God, but I've kind of separated myself from form, like from people and stuff like that. And maybe that's not even true, but that's what I think I'm doing. So anyway, and I went out last night. I decided to go out last night with a few friends and listen to music. And it was very, very, very emotional for me. And I just allowed myself to feel. I just allowed myself to feel, and I can't even really tell you what I've been feeling, but it's been expressed in tears, a lot of tears, and it feels good. It felt good. It didn't really feel good in a moment, like the ego was messing with me, like, oh my God, you're crying in public, and one of my friends looked over to me and was like, oh my God, you're crying.
I get
And
that.
I really wanted her to stop, I really wanted her to stop, but listening to Adriana always talk about like how everything is you, I guess I wanted myself to stop too, but the bottom line is that I allow myself to feel, and that's just what I've been doing, just trying to like just fearlessly feel, you know, um, Tom, I just want to thank you, for being here and sharing your wisdom. I've really been listening to you a lot, talk about like how not to recreate, like the other day you talked about, um, like not recreating the things that we don't want, you know. And if I'm not saying it right, please correct me. But I'm just, like that really hit me, because, they said that we came here, like everything that happened, these conflicts are for our better good and for us to, and basically we want them, we wanted them. And I think you said something the other day, like in order to not have these things repeated, we need to be able to fully feel them, you know, um, and basically say that this isn't what we want. If, like I said, Tom, if I'm not saying it correctly, can you please just clarify that? Because the other day
No,
you
yes,
said
he did.
that.
It was yesterday, I guess, that he did that.
Right. And that really hit me because I want to know how to get off this crazy train. I want to know
And it
how to,
is how he
how to,
said. You get to feel the tears, you get to feel the sadness or the anger. It's just that you surrender it. You give it, I mean, in the moment that you are feeling your emotions caught up in your body in some form, in tears or anger or whatever, that's the moment when you need to communicate with God. If you think that you are communicating with God because you has a routine, wake up every morning and put your mindset towards God, and that, yeah, that's a way to communicate with Him. But the true communication is, even though you're having this kind of reactions, you are in your mind constantly reinforcing yourself to the idea that, yeah, I'm feeling this, please God, show me what it is that I need to learn. I want to move from this feeling. I will give you my thoughts, please. What is there that I'm not seeing? Or give me the view, or ask the Holy Instant. In those specific moments where you feel the most alone, the most whatever, are the ones that that are perfect for communicating with God. And so, yes, we get to communicate with God when we go to church or whatever, but the true communication is when you're feeling those kind of bad moments and stressful moments and sad moments, when you truly need to surrender it because you are making them true and you don't want them to be your truth because you already know now that that is not true. So you need help. From whom? From God. So
Yeah,
He
but the whole
can.
thing, Adrienne, is that I'm not really sure if they're bad though.
Yeah,
See,
no,
that's what
they are
I'm
not
not.
bad. They are not
You know,
bad.
like
They're just
I'm not
experiences.
really 100% sure about that. So I don't know, but
Yeah, they're not bad. They're just experiences that you need to have to remember so you don't get to feel scared about them. You don't scare your dark side anymore because your dark side is as well part of you. It's how you can see it above from the battlefield in the right instant and you get stronger. This is like the marathon of the mind, the Olympics of the mind. So every time you will have to go through them in order to experience something and have some kind of learning. So there's sometimes you get caught up in the ideas, in the feelings, sorry, in the feelings. You need to go through them. You don't need to dismiss it. You don't need to say, no, I don't want to cry, God, so take away my tears. No, I do. I'm feeling this. I don't know what they are for. Please show me. Please help me. What is there that I need to see? What is there that I need to understand about myself? And
Whenever
maybe
you're,
that's.
whenever you're trying to discreate beliefs, there's a number of steps that uh, I suggest that you go through. But one of the things that when we refuse, well, first of all, any experience that we call into our awareness has some type of learning lesson for us. And what when we and also I'll just say in regards to any experience, at one time we may very well have resisted that experience or desired that experience, and whenever we run into a problem, we start seeing it flip from resistance to desire. But that's beside the point. But whenever you refuse to feel an experience to its fullest, you're missing out on some of the juices that the learning lesson was designed to provide. And whenever you refuse to feel it, you also, and the first step is you need to be able to feel it fully and all the juices in there. And then you also need to take responsibility for calling that it, for requiring that experience, pick up the learning lesson, and then hopefully move on to a different belief. But you can always check to find out if you've really uh, done it properly, because if you were to discreate a belief, you can replay the experience within your mind's eye or whatever. You can replay it. And although the experience will flow through, you will not find, if you've discreated the belief, you will not find any emotional, positive or negative. It'll just be, oh, yeah, that happened. Well, what did I learn from it, or whatever it might be? But you have to first fully feel those things, because as long as you refuse to fully feel, that means that you've got some resistance, and that means that there's hidden down there below, there's still some grievance. Might not be with the other party, it might be with yourself for having to go through there, but there's still a grievance because it still has a charge. So until you can feel it fully, uh, if you replay that and you still have some emotional charge, then that means you haven't experienced it fully. So just if, and we need to fully experience something, because if we don't, you still have an energy circuit tied into that grievance, which will continue to cause that to either reappear in your life or you'll replay it in your mind. So you'll keep on bringing that past, what we're going to call maybe what we perceived as a negative experience, forward to the future. So your future will be a replay of the past because you've still got that energy circuit. So until you can feel it fully and experience it fully, uh, that energy circuit can't be recovered, and it will not be recovered until you're willing to take full responsibility for needing or desiring that experience. So that's a little bit beyond this thing, which talk about discreation of beliefs. But in regards to this and the root cause, if you can discreate the belief in separation, all your problems that you perceive, even in time and space, will dissipate. Okay. Uh, our purpose is never to, or one of the things is that we do not want to identify or mistake a body for the truth of what you really are. And that's part of that belief in separation. But, there's four, I don't want, we'll call axioms. And the one I said, what was number four, was that, the only, in time and space, the only relationship of consequence is your relationship with God, because that encompasses everything. Once you get that one right, hey, everything else is a piece of cake, because you realize that no matter what we do in time and space, okay, it's all perfectly designed for us to grow and learn and reawaken to the truth of what we really are. And therefore, we can trust all things with that knowledge that I'm not a body, I am free, I'm still as God created me. Nothing sources my experience but me. Nothing has an effect upon me unless I choose to allow it. And so that was the first axiom. The second axiom is I need do nothing. Okay, which is this. There's a lot packed into that, but and I think the next lesson will tell us that our problem has been solved. But I need do nothing. Uh, and then the third is there are no ordinary moments. Each moment is placed before me by God, the Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call it, as stepping stones for my reawakening to the truth of who I am. And they're stepping stones to allow me to embrace, accept, and demonstrate love in form. And that's how you live fully, by embracing the learning lessons that this world provides without getting involved in the blame, shame, or guilt game. So I'll be quiet, and thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much for that.
Lee, have you read the questions yet? No, right? The question hasn't been read. You need to do that.
Never be on a page where you can't get to that mute button. My goodness. There are two questions. Do you like the idea of being different or special from others? Can you see why you might not perceive separation to be a problem when you value being different? Those are the two questions. And I had also invited Monica up on the stage and then didn't give her space to actually talk after Stella, so I wanted to be polite and do that as well. I've thrown out a whole bunch of other kinds of topics and wanted to try and be as polite as I could. We've got a lot of stuff that we kind of go through every day, but I want to give everybody space for whatever they feel like sharing.
Oh, good morning. Yeah, this is an important lesson. Um, it's really about suspending your judgment about what the problem is, because as you realize, our thoughts are always teaching us something that isn't true. Our egoic mind is always at play, and we're trying to resolve things that really don't have any reality. So it's one of the things that is the hardest about the Course, is to recognize that none of this is so. We don't have to work it all out, because none of it is so. It's manufactured by a false thought system that has no reality at all. And so, if you really want to wake up, just do the lessons. They really bring you to that place of full awakening from the dream. And you don't have to work it out for yourself or try to figure it out, because the lesson itself is a miracle. It's like seeing that all my problems are manufactured by a thought system that has no reality. And it's always bringing me fear. It's always bringing me upset. But I'm only seeing the past. So, so this is what the whole thing is I'm always thinking of the past, bringing my past into the present moment. And that's why we suffer and stay in conflict. So I love this. This is such an important part of the Course, because when you really get that all your problems are just justifications for you being separate, then you can give that up. I'm not saying you're going to snap your fingers and it's over. No, it's an ordeal. But as you do this, more and more you begin to awaken to the fact that every problem is the same. I think I'm separate, and I keep making up a world of separation. And I'm so grateful that, I found this like years ago. And it woke me up to the idea that I don't have to solve my problem. Wow. It's like, thank you, God. I don't have to solve my problem. It's been solved for me. And that's where the Course really, for me, has been just extraordinary, to let go of what I'm thinking about, what I'm making up about it. Because none of it's so. I can compare my illusions, but none of them are so. None of them have any reality. And so I like, lesson 80 is really the solution. So just letting my problems be resolved for me, and surrender into the light of knowing that that's true, that God is in everything I see. God is in everything, every person, every leaf, every blade of grass. God is in everything I see. I don't have to try to find God. He's everywhere, in all my relationships, and in everything. Every thought of love is God. So I just want to share that, because I think it's simpler than we make it. And like, just do the lesson every day. That's what I would share, because that's what worked for me. Woo, my head's lighting up. Yeah, Jesus is right here. He's really speaking right through us. So just be aware. The Course is the answer if you truly want to be free. Allow yourself to be free by letting go of your thoughts and beliefs that you're something separate that could suffer, because none of that is so. And also, don't avoid your emotions. I think your emotions are really give you the indicators of where, if it's working or not, right? So just fall in love. Just keep falling in love with life. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Monica. Appreciate that. This lesson 79 does keep coming back to that. So let me recognize the problem so it can be solved. And today, that little step is all you need to take, just recognizing the problem. Sometimes we can't recognize them because they just gloss right over. Try and see the ones you can't. The ones that you know are problems that you tripped up on before, don't let them get you tripped up. Don't let them bother you so much. These problems will be resolved. Now that you can see them, it's a lot easier to resolve them, so you can work towards that. It's a day to be encouraged, I think. Thanks, everybody.
I want to just add something right here, Lee, before you get into this. The whole thing comes from a certain amount of impatience also. And I think Monica really showed that and trumpeted it. We get impatient for the solution, and we don't realize that if we don't recognize what the problem really is, we won't even know the solution. It says it that way, but sometimes our problem is the impatience. I want it solved, and I want it solved now. You hear that, God? That's the way it's got to be. Oh, you mean I didn't figure it out by the time I got to page 3? So it's important for us to remember that part of the solution, if you want it solved, has to start with recognizing the problem. And until you do, you're not going to have any solution. So impatience gets in the way of that. But remember that it's part of the solution, is recognizing the problem. And to take that extra minute or two, it's like the boxer who just got smashed and he went into his corner, and he might want to think about what his problem is rather than how he can beat the hell out of somebody else when he gets back up. Let's recognize the problem today. Go ahead, Lee.
Can I jump in real quick? That was a really good one, Bob. That's me 100,000%. It's, I want it done now. Now. Why isn't this happening now? And not that I know it's not going to happen. I was with my boyfriend yesterday and we were really enjoying each other's company. Things were going fine. And there's this specific thing I want him to do. I have it in my mind. I'm like, well, why isn't he doing it yet? Why isn't, I prayed about it. It's not happening. And I had to ask myself, well, why do you want it done right now? Like, what is the problem? Like and I realized it was just stuff I was creating. My ego was just wanting to be in charge, wanting things to be done right away. There's no good reason for it to be done right away. Everything is going as it should be. And there's probably a good reason it hasn't happened yet. Um, so yeah, that's me. You called me out there, Bob.
Me
But I'm
too. He
learning
was talking
patience.
probably to me because I was insisting on communication. I know. And there is, yeah, we need to just be aware. It's funny because really, all the things that you need to understand when you're facing a problem or a disease or a sort of bad feeling within you is just to recognize the problem. Ask to recognize the problem is finding light speed in the solution. When you recognize the problem is the uh, unlocking of the solution. Yeah, great. I was as well being caught by Bob's observation there. Great.
I think we all have that, and that's why getting older does actually work a little bit. Um, Kara, it certainly beats the alternative. Kara, did you want to say something before Lee gets into the final part?
I don't have a final part to get into. We're all
Oh,
good.
I thought you were going to
Yep.
read some. Okay, that's great.
So hi everyone. Thank you, thank you. No, just wanted to say hi. And if we have a little bit of time, I can comment on kind of a big miracle that I had,
Oh
or
man,
that
we
I
love big
received a
miracles.
few days ago.
Yeah,
Well,
please do so.
there is an
Share it.
order of difficulty in miracles, right? So that one is not bigger or
I
smaller
know.
than the
I
next.
know, but some of them are more
But
entertaining than others. How about that?
yeah, I know. Um, so I told you guys that I got into A Course in Miracles because I was ill, and the thing with that illness is that I can have a relapse any moment for any reason, and there are like major relapses and small relapses. They are both very painful, but the small relapses typically would last about a month, right? So about what, 10 days ago, um, a mini one of the smaller relapses started happening. And I was like, oh man, here we go again. Oh my God. And I felt my mind, starting to go into that place, that place of fear and the terror of what's coming up and the physical pain and all of that. And, by now, I think we all know that, the answer is prayer and the answer is in surrender and all of that. So I started journaling like crazy, like, oh God, please take away the thoughts that are creating this relapse. Please take away the thoughts about this relapse. Please take away my fear. Please take away. So I started like really journaling, and it didn't. I mean, this was a mini relapse, so it would typically last about a month. So it's a month of pain, and it just didn't progress. So I had like a little bit of pain for about 3 days. And then on the fourth day, it just started diminishing. It started to get smaller and smaller until there was no more pain. So it lasted for about, I guess, 4 days, 5 days maximum. Um, Now I don't know. I mean, I mean, you can maybe it wasn't really a relapse. I don't know. It felt like one of those mini relapses that I used to have years ago, that were really challenging. But um, I don't know. I got a get out of jail free card this time, at least this time, because I don't. I mean, even after the amount of work that I've done on myself with A Course in Miracles and other disciplines and other, I don't know, books and things, even after all of that, I cannot say for certain that if I had a relapse, I would be okay. I don't know, because I know by now that physical pain really, really messes up my mind. Like really, it's really the thing, you know? Um, but at least this one time it didn't it didn't progress, and I'm okay now. So just wanted
And
to.
no idea what went different a couple of days into this? No physical changes, no like changes of diet or anything like that? You
No,
feel like it was
no.
all, then sounds like a miracle to me. I totally agree. That's
Yeah,
a
yeah,
that's a something that feels like it's on a train track, like allergies in the springtime. You know, I would love to not have allergies in the springtime. Not that it's a debilitating thing, but if you can detach an unconscious thing that goes on in your body and actually heal it, that's the biggest miracle I think of mind control that we're hoping for out of this, is to be able to direct off those
well,
things. And I
well,
I get it.
well, in the beginning I was I was starting to panic like the first day. I was just starting to panic, but I'm aware. I mean, I'm advanced enough by now to know, to recognize that I'm starting to panic. So I know I have to go run to my journal and start releasing all of these things and surrendering all of these thoughts, because I know that the more I allow myself to go into to believe those thoughts, the worse it's going to get. So the first 2 or 3 days were really challenging, because even though I was doing my journaling, the mind kept going, to the fear. It kept
Mm-hmm.
going to the fear. However, the pain was really subdued. It wasn't the normal amount of pain. It was really subdued. So I was able to, to remain present and to keep journaling and keep praying and all of that. And by day four, um, it started going back. It started to diminish and diminish and diminish until it was gone. So to me, it's a miracle. It's a miracle because I'm I still had the presence of mind to stay with God. That's the miracle. I guess if it had progressed and if it had become a true relapse, I that would have been my assignment, but it wasn't this time. So
Caro,
just wanted
that's
to
that's
share that.
fantastic, because a miracle is defined by a change in perception, not a change in your medical condition. The change in the medical
Right,
condition changes your perception, so that the next time you might even have the slightest thought that this is coming again, you know where to go to get your
right.
perception of expectations changed. This is a true miracle.
It's like the one
Great
that,
example.
Yes.
It might
yeah.
be the greatest miracle of all time for you.
It's like the
Thank you.
situation
Well
with
done
Lee
today.
this week. I mean, really, really, Lee couldn't talk about it with more like excitement, but I was truly excited when he faced the court this week and he was in this mindset of whether if it goes like this or if it goes like that, I'll be fine. And then the court, oh, sorry, who is, it's Carol, let me just mute her. Okay, it's the change of perception that makes the miracle. I mean, the change, the changing in the condition of a physical aspect or a situation. It's a projection of your mindset. So if you keep your mindset constantly restating, no, this is, I mean, I'm with God and God will take whatever it wants to take out of this, and it's part of God, I'm part of God, and whatever. That's the miracle that gives you the experience in the level of the form. So I'm so thrilled to hear that, Carol, because I don't know for sure all the details of your condition, but I really know how debilitating that could be, and I can really imagine your days and working with what you do, and I really can understand how tough you are having that kind of situation and doing what you do to help others. So I know for sure that now you're having this experience because you are truly integrated the learnings of everything that you have been experiencing, and that will give you more strength to keep going with that kind of routine in your mind whenever it comes the fear. So it is amazing. The miracles are a projection as well. I mean, the miracle is life itself. So whenever you get to practice these lessons and get to practice every single time the idea that you are one with God and that we are all sustained by God and that you can communicate with Him, you will have those in your life, and it's amazing. I didn't tell this during the week, but I did have my miracle this week. I haven't told Bob. As I'm moving to Boston, or well, I'm moving with Lee. I had to let my boss know that I was moving from Merida to United States, that I will be coming back and forth between U.S. and Mexico. So that I needed to find another kind of collaboration between him and I, so I can have a little more of extra income, because what I earn right now is just like well, it's not it's nothing in comparison to what I earned in the past and what I will need to be in this position. So I was trying just to have another kind of relationship with him in order for me to have more income. And I was thinking about sales and whatever, but I just stated he wanted to meet me to see how it went, my divorce and whatever. So he wants just to sit with me and talk. And when I left home, I thought myself, well, I'm gonna meet God today. Ever since I got the Course in Miracles with me, every single appointment that I have with a friend or with a client or whatever, I always in my mind said, well, I'm gonna meet God today. So when I went out, I was like laughing inside of me because my boss name is Juan Pablo, John Paul. So Lee makes this joke like, you're gonna meet the Pope. He's my boss. So you're gonna meet the Pope? Yeah, I'm gonna meet the Pope. Well, and it went so well. I just told him like the short version of my story about the divorce that has been already signed and things like that. And I said to him, well, I need just to find another way to collaborate so I can have more income. And he didn't even think it twice. He said to me, well, now that you're gonna have more time, let's double the time, and I will pay you the double that you're earning right now. And I was, okay, let's do it. So he gave me Bobby's with his mouth open. Yeah, like that. He didn't even, I thought he was going to propose me some kind of partnership to have sales on my side, to have more clients, and he didn't want that from me. He was saying that you have more time, you will help me with other kind of things that I was thinking to give you, but now that you will have more time, I will pay you the double. Yeah, okay, great. He was like that. So that was my miracle as well, because that gave me the support that I needed to have in order to have the situation moving forward. So even if anything goes wrong with me being there with Lee or whatever, I still have the enough income to come back here and do it by myself, believing by myself,
Yeah.
because that will be just
Securing a
another way.
parachute is
Yeah,
really important.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
important.
exactly.
It gives you some
So
peace of mind. And it's not
yeah,
like we can live without parachutes. We can live
yeah,
without railings. It can be that way, but it's a lot
yeah,
easier to feel safer, to go faster. We
yeah,
put railings
exactly.
on highways so that our cars can go faster. We make those lanes wide so there's margin of air to work within.
But it was that
Room to breathe is
same
good.
mindset of whether an outcome or another, I'm going
Yes.
to be okay, moving forward with a relationship and with diseases and whatever. That even if you're in pain, that even if you're hurt, knowing deep inside that everything is sustained by God, everything is for a reason, and thinking of everybody as you're meeting God, it will help you to see these miracles. Really, it's amazing. I'm really thankful for Caro's experience and your experience as well, Lee. This week has been really enlightening,
I
and
feel the same way. I feel like
it
it's
gave me
making it a
the
lot easier to
strong,
listen to. Yeah.
yeah, and it gave me this strong belief that what we are doing is really, because you're showing me really how to experience this as well. I mean, I'm doing it by myself, but I'm seeing it in you as well every single time. So I'm thankful for all this experience and all the miracles that everybody shares here.
Thanks so much, Adriana.
Thank you so much, Adriana. Well, we've been here for 2.5 hours, so sometimes at least I try to, at the top of the hour and bottom of the hour, at least say thank you to everybody for coming. And we'll be here tomorrow. Tomorrow will be 80, lesson 80. So looking forward to that. We're getting close to another review section coming up after 80. The first one we had was at about 50 days. This one's 80 days in, and it lasts for about 10 days. And during those review sessions, we'll go back over these lessons again. So one of the benefits of this, and one of the benefits of being in Clubhouse, is that as we go through these steps, they do build on each other, but we also go back and review pretty often. And so over the next week and a half or so, we'll be going back over the last 40. We'll be looking at the learning that we had and kind of reapplying it to where we're at today, because every time we read these lessons and look at them, we find new little nuances to help us through. And I appreciate you all being here to share successes, failures if you got them. But it sounds like we're really working towards a lot more successes. So I appreciate you all being here. And I don't have to close the room down at Sunday. So if you have anything else you want to say or share, I'm going to turn off the raise hands for a second, because sometimes this thing just doesn't work, and turn it back on. If you ever see that big red thing flash up at the top, that just means I'm trying to reset it, and not that I'm trying to turn off hand raising, just that I'm trying to make sure it works. And that's about it for me. I hope you guys are having a great one, and I'll be here.
I just want to add how much I appreciate you, Lee, and Adriana and Bob for being here every day. It just really, really means a lot to be able to turn you guys on first thing in the morning and recommit to Course in Miracles, and have people to, like a little family to discuss it with. And just thank you.
I get it. I've got back channel communications going on too, and so I want to take a step back and just introduce myself for some people that may have not met me before. I started out early on in my life I went down a lot of self-help paths. I've been in the 12-step groups. My family and we went to the 12-step groups for many, many years. My dad's here, he's Bob. And during those times, we learned a lot of stuff. We tried different religions. We tried meditation and a whole bunch of different ways to find God. But the path that the 12-step led to, and this book has led to, is the same kind of solution. And the 12 steps lead you to a spiritual awakening. Eventually, it took me 20 years to get my spiritual awakening. And that was about 10 years ago that I had it. And now I've had several other deeper revelations that have made it easier to move through life, that has made it easier to solve tremendous amount of problems. And so I'm really grateful to be able to be here and read these lessons. I've been reading them every morning with my dad for 6 years now, and I'm getting more out of them every day now, this time through, than I ever have before. And so as I go through life and I'm overcoming struggles, I'm grateful to have you guys with me as I go through the journey. Life has become a much richer place, and I appreciate you all.
I
Nice.
think we're enjoying it a lot more too. Who was the person who spoke just before you, Lee, just now? It was a woman, and I don't know who it was
It was Janine.
because Janine.
Janine?
So Janine is the one who turns me on every morning. I heard her say that, but I couldn't tell who it was. I said, well, that's why I keep coming back here.
That's my dad.
I you got to look at this stuff with a little bit of humor. Like we all say, if we forget to laugh and we think about, oh my God, I got to learn all this stuff and I got to figure out the problem before I can even have the solution. Even though last problem took me 4 years to figure out, this time when I know the problem, once I know it, then the problem can be solved. And I didn't know the problem. That's just an example. But my point here is we also are really beginning to enjoy it more because our stories make us laugh. The miracles are wonderful. What great story can you tell that beats a miracle? Nothing. That's the greatest thing about miracles. And so we've got stuff to talk about that's a lot of fun. It's just great, and we can have fun with the language and everything else. Adriana, you were talking about languages all the time. Think about this. In the Tower of Babel, you had these guys who had every one of them, they were like, supposedly in the story, 200 people building this thing. They're all going to build something that's going to reach God. They're going to get God with something made of form, right? Okay, we know how silly that is. But they all get a different language all of a sudden. They all start speaking something different. So instead of saying, give me a brick, it says, throw a brick at me, that person says, and the other guy throws a brick at him. And, they get into a fight. Misunderstandings. Okay, that's one kind. That's one kind of misunderstanding. Then there's the other side of the same story. If you go to the gospel story, and at the moment that they receive the Holy Spirit, what happens then? Okay, dig it. They're feeling ecstasy. They're feeling, oh my God, literally and figuratively, and what happens? They start speaking in other tongues. And they get all confused because it was such an abrupt change, and it wasn't something a little bit slower in their life. And then all of a sudden, you can imagine what we think that means today sounds like gibberish to most people, and it doesn't matter what it sounds like. It only has meaning to the person who is doing it, and whether it even means anything. Of course, some people sort of copycat someone else's tongue and so on, and all of that's I'm not going there with this. The point is that languages are one of the things that does create problems, also expresses solutions, but it all depends. And I think when it comes to communication, it's much more important than most things I can think of that are problematic, and that is that they're not communicating. They're not becoming one. Instead of they're becoming disparate, they're becoming separate from each other. So we've hit on a lot of big things today, and we haven't even talked about the solution yet.
And it's
But we
funny
know
that you
what the
mentioned
problem
the
is.
Babel Tower story, because now I can see it differently. I never thought about it, because if people were building some kind of a structure to reach God, they were creating something that is not true. The only way to reach God is within yourself. There's nothing in the level of the form that you can build to reach God instead of your own thoughts within yourself. So it's funny that the Holy Spirit said, I mean, I'm just messing around with this. Sorry, doesn't have to be the truth, but it's funny. Like the Holy Spirit said, yeah, you're trying to build something to reach God. Well, I'm gonna give you another kind of experience. So I'm gonna make you speak in different languages in order for you to do the work internally to reach God within you instead of outside.
Yeah, well, in my experiments, it seems to be, the place of like the bird's eye view, the part that can look at the big picture and see, the ego, from that place, from that observation, from that higher, I don't know if I want to call it thinking anymore now that I don't believe we think, but from that higher, like, perspective.
Let's get up there and stay there.
Yeah. But it's just that we are one. So it's funny because if you're trying to build something to reach God, then you will have more troubles, more complications in life because God is within you and among everything. So everything is you, and you're thinking that you're separated. So you're building more conflict around yourself to understand that God is within yourself. It's like languages. I mean, when you communicate with anybody and you don't have the language, you will always find any other way to do it because there's always a better way to do it or a different way to do it. And you get to just find a solution. And that is how life works. I mean, in order for us to do something that it's worth for everybody, we need to communicate. And it doesn't matter that we have different languages. If you come from the same source, you will always find a way. You will always find the solutions. The ideas that you have aren't like that originally, because the ideas that you have to build something are just God's doing. It's just that they come from inspiration that is not your ego thought. I mean, the ideas, when I'm referring to ideas, I'm referring to ideas different than thought. You can have the thought process on anything, but when you really have an idea of something supposedly new, it's just not that new. It's just that really like the consolidation of something that needs to be done in order to have goodness in life. Everything that you see around yourself comes from thought process and ideas, but those ideas are the ones that the Holy Spirit needs to bring into our reality to make us remember what we are. The book in itself is a recollection of ideas that this duality has in order to communicate something. So God gave us Jesus, God gave us this book. There's just different ways of placing into duality one single message that needs to be communicated. So it doesn't matter actually if you're building something or if you're speaking tongues. If you are connected with the source, you will always find your way to be at peace and to be at one and to recognize each other as one. Right?
Couldn't have said it better.
Yes, indeed.
Agreed.
Louisa, I have a message for you in back channel.
And Luisa had her birthday this week, and she didn't came here because she didn't want me to sing her my mañanitas. I had to place it in Facebook because she didn't want it to receive my mañanitas in live.
Mañanitas.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
was
but
about to sing her, but she
what
didn't
was
came this
that?
week.
What was that serenade you gave me? Oh my God. Thank you so much. I was, I've been a bit absent. Adriana is keeping me, the faults, how you call it,
The tache.
the
I'm
absence.
yeah.
She has
I'm
record of my absence, I know. But I am in the middle of, I am rebuilding my, not rebuilding, opening a yoga studio. So you hear some sounds in the back. That's my partner working. And but I'm here. Thank you so much. And I will read your message. I'm really very sorry I won't be able to see you, Bob. But that's an excuse to for the next time maybe. Not an excuse, a reason.
I understand, but wait till you read it. I'm going to have the last laugh on this one. Anyway, I think it's great that more people are coming in the morning at the later times. The problem is that we're having a good time, but nobody knows why when they come in late, and it's hard to get up early on a Sunday morning at 6:30, even if you're in Eastern time. But it's great because we seem to have it just up a little bit more each time we focus on a problem, a problem that we need to find a solution for. And today we focused on making sure you know the problem before you try looking for a solution. And that makes us have fun also. That's why we end up giggling half the time, because it's a lot of fun. We all do the same things. We all start off stupid because we don't have time yet to learn the things that we need to learn. This book is the fastest way to learn the most important lessons. That's my personal belief, and I've tried a whole lot of them out in my long lifetime. So, I'm glad when you join us. I'm glad when you all come and speak up. Come on up and ask your questions. We don't always have a perfect answer. Sometimes you'll hear two different answers from that are different from each other, and then maybe if you're lucky, well, you'll figure out which one is the best one, and there it is. You got an answer. We don't, that's not what we're here for. The answers, we're here to read the book because Jesus Christ put the answers there for us. And that's what we are. That's what we have here. It's a pretty terrific book. So I've spoken enough now. I'll stop. And anybody else wants to come up and speak, come on up. If not, we'll see you another time.
I just wanted to say good morning, Grand Rising. Hello, Janine. Hello,
Hey,
Lee.
David. Thank you,
How are
David.
you?
Good
Oh,
morning.
good, man. It's good to hear your voice.
I love to hear
Yes.
your voice,
It's
David,
good to hear
and see
your
your
voices.
pretty face. I mean, you have such a wonderful smile. I have to say that I want to meet you someday because you have such a great picture there, and I just want to hug you right now.
I am ecstatic. I love A Course in Miracles. This is I guess, the cherry on the top of my day. To be with like-minded people and to fellowship and to, just come together with whatever may be on your mind. But today's lesson is a wonderful lesson. It's a lesson that I think that stays on my mind constantly. Constantly, I'm thinking about uh, the lesson for today. Doggone it, where's the lesson for today? Oh, let me see here, David. What is the lesson for today? Let me recognize the problem so it can be solved. And that's just my nature. I'm always looking to solve a problem. I've been that way ever since I could remember. And when you think about these lessons, it takes you back to a time when you were like coming up, and you're thinking about who you are, some of the situations that you've been in, and you're trying to figure things out, and you see yourself when you look at these lessons. And I do I see myself, and it helps me reflect on who I am, and what Jesus intended to teach us so that we can learn more about who we really are. And as I go and do what I do every day, I'm out there in the public, meeting people as I do Uber and Lyft. I've always wanted to help others, and a lot of them they got problems and they want answers. Um, and if I can facilitate that, then I feel as though I've done my purpose. So people now, they're all getting out. It's springtime, and as they say, love is in the air. But for me, I say God is in the air because God is love. unconditional love, that is. And if I can help somebody solve a problem that they have or direct them to where they can get the problem solved, I feel like, as a light worker, that's what we, should be doing. And for you guys to be here to offer this class here in the Course in Miracles, a place where people can come to get answers, is wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. So, anyway, I don't want to take up a lot of you guys' time, but I just want to just say, hey, I'm still here, But I've been up all night long out there in the streets, and I mean, not everything is rosy. I run into some tough challenges.
Yeah.
I had a guy jump in back of my car and his family. He was drunk and he had a glass of alcohol drinking in my car. I said, "Oh, no, 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 no. We can't do that.
Oh, no, we cannot. We
We
cannot do
can't do
that.
that. Mm-mm, mm-mm." And I had like traveled 13. What was it? Let me see. I think it was about 20. Took me about 20 minutes to get there, and I was so upset. And then something said, "You know what? That right there could have been a problem in the making." And because when I left, there was a police officer, wasn't even a mile away. Suppose I
Hmm.
got stopped, you know. So you never know the scheme of things. But when you're in this vibration, I believe that things happen because we are one. And when we are one, things kind of work themselves out for the better of us all. If we can maybe step in the way, be a wedge, or just to intervene, maybe just to hold up time to prevent another catastrophe or tragedy from happening, it's all good. We know, I don't know, but it's all good. So, somebody got to be there to, help others and help them get to the place where they got to go. And if I can transport somebody safely, without harm, that makes my day. It really does. So, anyway, for all you all out there, in Clubhouse, in this room, y'all make a wonderful day. And remember to share a Course in Miracles with somebody. Say, hey, you can always come here and get some answers. I know Bob and Lee and Adriana and Janine, all y'all be waiting. All y'all earthly guides. But anyway, bless you all. Abundance, love, and light and protection.
Oh my God, you're
And I'm
so
complete.
nice. You're so nice with your words, and your energy today is so uplifting. I really, really enjoy your voice. Thank you very much, David. And I will always, always be glad to hear you. And in some weird way, I know that maybe someday we will meet. So thank you very much for joining us. And I want to give everybody a great hug right now, virtual hug, because I'm really enjoying this process in life with you, with all of you. Thank you very much. Bob, are you waving at me right now?
Bob, did you want to meet with me?
Bob is sending waves. He's sending highs
Yeah,
to
I don't think he
everybody.
realizes what he's doing.
Yeah, I received one as well, Mandy. I don't know what he's trying to do. Bob! He's not hearing us, right,
I
honey?
don't think
We
he is
were
hearing
I
us.
I hear
Oh,
everything.
does he? Does he listen to the Wizard
Yeah.
of Oz over here?
underestimate underestimate the patient.
Yes,
Hey, did you want to
I
meet with
am
me
gonna.
after this, Bob?
we'll do it by phone, or we
Okay.
can do it right after this if you want.
Yeah, you guys can talk.
Oh,
I'm inviting Rich up here because I've been back channeling, kind of talking to him, and I realized that I started to try and answer some questions, but I can't really answer them all fast enough. And if there's anybody here who hasn't shared their story of how you guys found the book or how the book found you, especially some of the stories that early on, that was one of the biggest questions. We probably had two or three a day. Somebody would share kind of the mysterious ways that this book showed up in their lives, or showed up three or four times until finally they gave up and read it. Like me, I was one of those kind of people. Anyway, that's always been kind of a fascinating part of what comes up here. So I thought I'd ask that question again, since it's been a bit since I asked it. That's part of thinking that maybe that was something that prompted Rich to say something to me about it. Perhaps, Rich, you had an interesting story about how you found the book or how the book found you.
Yeah, I mean, thanks for the opportunity to speak. I'm very impressed with everybody, and I really
Hey,
enjoy these
Rich.
conversations immensely. And I just, I think I stumbled onto it through a stage of my life where I had different difficulties with accepting where I was in life, where I should have been much further along, very down, self-sabotaging, very deep, self-sabotaging thoughts that were, very, very negative. And then I just stumbled onto it through a friend who was kind of going through a similar thing. I'm like, wow, this is such a miracle. Help me understand life and apply these things called religion that I was raised with. I wasn't sure if I really believed it or not. I was raised Catholic, and pros and cons, and nothing against that, but I held these beliefs from that, and then from my parents' beliefs about life and religion, and I struggled. I struggled immensely. But my point is, it came into my life when I needed it, and then it helps me understand things about spirituality that are beyond a given religion's filter. So I'm always fascinated to talk to the people about it. And I seem to find it hard to find other people who understand Course in Miracles. Thanks to Clubhouse and you guys, I finally found a group that does. So I'll just stop there and say thanks for this opportunity to connect.
Right on, man. All right.
You are so right. It is hard to find people who think like this because in this program, we turn our thinking, no, God turns our thinking around 100%. We can come in here having studied all kinds of esoteric topics and things, thinking we got it all figured out. And this is just the icing on the cake. We find out otherwise. There are a lot of things we never thought of. And that's one of the most amazing things about this. And it really is hard, even to people who have just cracked the book once or twice, to get there and to communicate exactly in a way that can help people. That's what I was trying to say earlier. We really have to do our best not to alienate someone by being too damn happy. David is a good example. David, you're just too damn happy sometimes. I'm just kidding with you, of course. But it's amazing. We learn so much, and every day there is a lesson. It's only after going through it a number of times, the workbook, that you realize how each lesson is absolutely necessary for the whole 365-day structure. It's absolutely, that's the miracle.
And
So,
each lesson creates so many questions for me, so many
mhm.
questions. And and I hear everyone's perspectives, and I'm like, it's just fascinating. I can go on for hours, but I try to connect with everybody who's involved in it because your perspectives, their perspectives, are very, very powerful. We help each other, I think, through these conversations. And then when you were at the very beginning of the session today, I think Lee was reading some of some of the issues that people talk about, which was the reason for the lesson for today. And it's like, boy, it comes through for me, your identity, your beliefs. Do you believe in all those things he mentioned at the beginning, like those so-called problems? I identified with some of those, and I start to believe I am all those problems. Because your beliefs are given to you, at a young age. You kind of get transferred to those beliefs when you're, before age 7 from your parents. So I find my life sometimes struggling to create my own beliefs or get away from my own beliefs that were given to me. But anyways, I'll stop talking for a ramble, but thanks for this opportunity to connect.
Those are the toughest beliefs. I'm just trying to paste them into the chat, but I think it's too much to paste in there. But it's all the limiting thoughts. A victim being, that you lack
Yes.
something. There's an outside voice. There's you have to judge a little bit so that you can, like, there's the subtle ones from the ego. You have to judge a little bit in order to be able to do this, right? But that's part of the trip up too. And I do feel like all the different perspectives in the long run, after 6 years of reading this stuff every day, feels like they're a slightly different focus on the same kernel of truth, the same love message, and the same responding with love when there's a problem, and giving yourself enough love and space to let the solution be provided for you, because your ego talks fast and loudest, and all the subtle ways it comes back to trip me up has got me to the point where I have to double down and have 100% faith, and realize that no matter how crazy my ego gets and how much it complains, the crazier it gets, the worse it is at solving the problem in front of me. The worse it is at taking care of the issue. And so taking a step back and reminding it that there is no problem God can't solve, right? My problems pale in comparison to any of the litany of problems if you go out and look at the quote unquote real world. Me lucky in the United States, period. Happy. Feel like I won the lottery. I won the country lottery being born here. And I really, really feel that. And I'm so grateful for it. My worst days have got to be better than some people's, maybe best days, if you want to objectively measure it. So with that as my starting point for gratitude, I think there's nothing that I can't pick myself up for and be willing to try again when it comes to mental anguish and suffering. When it comes to, I'm not talking about getting shot. It's all the stuff that other people have done to me that trip me up, blah, 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 blah. Instead of taking care of, my part of it. And my part of it sometimes is small, sometimes it's big. It's easier to take care of the big stuff when my part of the problem is really small, and it really feels like it's coming from outside people. It makes it so much harder. So
One
back to
problem,
me.
one solution.
Yeah, back to me in love. Yep. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
It's hard to believe
Right?
that when
Isn't
you
that
go through a
amazing?
difficult.
One problem, one solution. Love it.
Awesome.
I trust me. I get it. This week I was in court. My ex was there. I didn't have to say too many words, but even with this situation, I have my part to play, and I will redouble my efforts on my part. I think the judge basically agreed with me that, it's, well, yeah, the judge agreed with me. It wasn't child abuse. So, he watched the video that my daughter shot and sent to my ex-wife, and we went to the court, and the judge found that there was not need for an abuse prevention order to keep me 50 yards away from my kids, and to keep me away from their school, and to make it so that I couldn't talk to them on the phone, to make it so that if I answered the phone, my ex-wife could call the police on me and get me put in jail. It's a crazy part. I definitely had a part to play in this. Things definitely got off the rails, and I couldn't talk to any of the people involved in making it go off the rails by order of police. So, but I had a part to play in the kickoff of the problem, and still think I did the best I could to get my second grader to school, because I had to get my second grader to school. So
You
I'm
have your
sorry if I just
validation of
slam
that.
dunked this whole conversation with that little dose of reality, but that was where I came from today, from this week, and to feel grateful that I can solve my part of the problem, and be grateful for my daughter for doing what she did, because she provided the evidence that ended up, making it really clear exactly what happened, that, a normal adult would react in the same way that I did. Thank God.
Which is why I appreciate you telling us the story so much, because it's definitely one with energy attached to
Oh,
it. for
It
many of
is.
us.
I am really
And
venting that energy too, by the
yeah.
way. It is. I don't have to hold on to it too long, and this is. I've got a stack of these from the last 6 years that I take notes on. I put in my journal, and I forgive, and I'm ready to move on because it's one more in the thing, and I'm here for my kids, and I can just keep it that way.
It's really helpful though, the more vulnerable we get, and vulnerable is a strength actually, because the more we will tell people about things and not feel um like a lot of these rooms when they have replays, there's people that'll say, oh, the replays are on, I don't want to talk. Well, the things we say do have repercussions. The things we do have, this is a universal law. There's cause and effect. um but getting out of the trap of the mental hamster wheel, so to speak, these are the ways that we get out. And when people just, you know nothing against meditation, but meditation, just, that doesn't help me. Honestly, my help comes from hearing and also exposing the things that I've experienced now, and hearing myself again say them is another thing. Like, oh wait, is that really real for me? Is that true for me? I love this has definitely been a super helpful room for me. And lesson 79 is kind of, wraps it up a lot. I mean, I'm still coming to the room, but it's, because each time I hear a lesson, I'm like, oh, that's a great lesson. They just keep getting greater, but it's because of our understanding getting deeper, and then simpler again. It's going back. It's because we're using all these memories to, like, see how we perceive them and actually observe them again and redo them or undo them or whatever we're doing to simplify everything again. So I do appreciate what feels like vulnerable share. I really appreciate that from people. So much, it's so helpful.
Yeah, it is kind of daunting when you get started here. They say in the beginning, this is really pretty simple, guys. And then you see, oh my God, there's 1,946
We can
pages here.
keep it simple. We can keep it simple. We don't have to make
Right.
it complicated. It certainly is a lot more bite-sized here, one little day at a time. And I mean, to remind everybody, we're breaking it down that today we're just recognizing the problem, just recognizing it. Tomorrow it's all going to be solved, but today, just watch yourself a little bit more deeply from a presence of this moment, this present moment.
You know what that reminds me of? It reminds me of one when I felt like I had to have courage to do something that I was afraid of. And you know what I did? I took a step back and said, all I need is the courage to have the courage. Because it kind of was an illusion, but it removed me, gave me a little distance to, like, observe what it is that I thought I needed the courage for in the first place. That was felt a lot safer. So it's little bite size. And then all of a sudden the courage was like, it didn't feel like courage anymore. It felt like a different perception, like a perception of, like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so liberating. I'm ready to do it. And it didn't feel as scary. And then it wasn't, yeah, it was really cool. But yeah, so little bite size, that's really a necessity at times.
Absolutely. It's this mustard seed, not a big, you know, cantaloupe, billion seeds or something like that. It just is very simple. And it is simple, and it gets easier and simpler as you get into it more, because the idea of turning around our thinking 360 degrees is an amazing idea. How can you change the way I think? And everything in my mind in the beginning wants to fight you, and yet it works
Yeah,
one day at a time.
because the
Yeah,
memories, right? It's the memories that we're holding, as we're still holding and keeping, as if they're the truth. Yeah, and then we find the memories go
exactly.
so far back. Yeah, so we got to undo each memory. Sometimes it's like just a little, some of them come undone automatically. But then there's another one that jumps up that we think is a problem, and we bring it back to, oh, it's just a memory. Yeah, I know. It's so good. It's so good. What can we say?
And for me, it's the belief. I had some belief along the way that I picked up somehow, somewhere, right? Why do I do that? I mean, how did I get there? I wanted to question those beliefs and move beyond my own limiting beliefs because I'm holding myself back. I could do so much more and be so much more to my family and to other people. And
Yeah.
that's part of my mission. I stumbled into life coaching and business coaching, and then I found out like everything we talk about in business coaching is actually interconnected to what happened in their life and their beliefs. And however they got there, these crazy thoughts we have. When you question those thoughts, like this isn't simply not true. And you see these people like feel relief and like wow, I mean I just fascinated with it. So I want to really build this part of my life toward helping other people, not as a religious person, but as a call it a spiritual person, whatever that is, but helping them get unstuck because I've been stuck by these beliefs, and then again back to A Course in Miracles, it helped me get there. So it's just awesome, and I appreciate these chances to connect and share with other people who are share the same thoughts. So if I haven't back channeled you, I will because I want to connect with all of you, you know, for this exact reason.
Phenomenal. Well, great. Well, we've also got the Facebook group, and I stream this out every day. So, Andy, you talk about people who don't want to talk because they have the replays on. I'm literally sending this out to Facebook Live, to YouTube Live, and to Twitch. So this is about as public as it can get. And I don't say that to intimidate anybody. I want to let you guys know that I'm being really public with my stuff. And fortunately, I can see all the statistics, and I know nobody gives a crap because nobody's actually watched any of the videos.
Wow.
I may stop doing this, but it's kind of fascinating. There's not a lot to worry about, at least in my opinion. And I started making websites in 1992, and I wrote a For Dummies book on websites and how to make websites for iPhones and iPads. Um, but it's the this is it's funny, Dad, that you brought up metaverse, and I'm actually going to steer us in for a landing for this topic soon. But the idea of the metaverse is actually kind of the opposite of the way that you took your viewpoint. You came out to the universe, and the universe is actually much, much greater than the metaverse. The metaverse is an idea, and the idea itself is as big as the tip of a pin. It's just an idea. The metaverse itself is only one version of the whole idea of a metaverse. That's what the meta part of it is that this is just Facebook's incarnation of it. And there are open versions of it, and there are 1,000 other versions of it. A lot of people think there are video game versions of it, and they all can really be defined as their own little imagined universe that we bring to life in a digital way. And really, this room that we're in right this second is a great example of a metaverse concept. We're sharing a verbal space, and you can really, well, other than you and me and Adriano, we can't really see each other. We've got these little pictures, but mostly we exist as the ideas that we represent ourselves as. And if me recording this has done anything, it's given me a history of how I show up, at least for these principles in this book. I am showing up in real life and doing everything I can to live them. Even my mistakes, I'm turning them into lessons, and I'm gonna find some way to be a better dad because of it. And I'll honestly tell everybody the struggles that I go through and the successes, because I feel like I'm definitely getting a lot more successes than failures. And I haven't felt that way my whole life. I'm 49, and a lot of it has not felt that way. A lot of it has been great. I'm so grateful for those great parts. I'm really grateful for the painful parts that I've been through and the lessons they learned. And I'd prefer to avoid the painful parts if I don't have to in the future. And I think that is what recognizing the problem so that it can be solved is going to do for me. And that's today's lesson. Lesson 79 from A Course in Miracles, where we're here reading every morning at 6:30. So come on back, and tomorrow I'll read 80. And I'm going to land this airplane and let you all go and have a wonderful day.
I have to
Unless
say
you've got
that
something burning, there are other A Course in Miracles group rooms that are going to be starting soon too, if you're interested in joining those as well.
Yeah, I wanted just to set this to you. Shah in the room chat just told you that it's not true that nobody see those because she have watched them. So you might as well reconsider not to. I mean, you might as well not reconsider not to drop the Twitch and the other platforms, YouTube's or whatever. So well, it's up to you because
We
you
can
were
keep
the captain, Ted.
YouTubes. We can keep the Twitches. I was happy doing it. I use this so I make websites and every other kind of web technology I can figure out. So I use this to explore different ways to stream stuff. And my kids have been interested in being YouTubers. And if they're interested in it, I'm going to figure out what it takes. I'm just going through the mechanics of what somebody with real talent might do. I'm using my talent at reading this book, which I've developed with my father over the last 6 years, to at least stand in for some kind of real talent that I can offer back to the world. The ideas themselves are the things that I'm interested in, and my practice is worse than somebody like learning to play the trombone. I think if you live next door to somebody, oh my God, next door, I think there's a guy learning how to play the drums. Yesterday, for about 4 or 5 hours, he was playing the drums for a long, long time, and he got
How can you
better.
complain about that if you see Mitch every time that he goes on air? You cannot complain about that.
Uh,
Well, the thing that we practice most and that you've done a good job with, Lee, is practicing how to be you. And and you're doing a great job. So let's wrap it up. Let's get
All
on
right.
with our day. Andy, I'll
Thank
call you.
you, everybody. I appreciate it. Harris, welcome to the room. We're just closing up. We're here about 3 hours prior to this every single day, 6:30 Eastern, or 6:37 is usually what I line it up for. And hey, remind me, I've got to go set up some more